Hi everyone, I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and this is another episode of Living Enlightened Every Day. I help people love their life and live their passion. That's what brings me passion. And today is a follow-up on last week's episode where I talked about the things that are calling for us to do that are right in front of us. People to help that are right in front of us, and sharing our love with those in need that are right in front of us. And it all starts with our heart, an open heart, and heart-centered listening. So let's talk about being present to what's right in front of us, beginning with an open heart and heart-centered listening. Well, but before we do, let's check in. I invite you, as you watch this video, that you just take a moment to tune into yourself and ask, how am I being? Is your heart open? Can you hear and listen with your heart and not just your ears? Are you open to the possibility of living in an expanded version of you today? Are you open to a new expression of who you are in this world today? And open to creating a life that you love and are passionate about, because how we are being is what we are creating. Isn't that beautiful? Sometimes it is that simple. So this week I wanted to talk about what led me in particular to be in that place where I could finally hear the conversation underneath the conversation that was with my neighbors and with my mother-in-law and things like that. What was happening for me is that I wasn't just listening to the words, to the story that people were telling. I was open to understand something on a deeper level of what was being asked of me in that moment. And sometimes what is being asked of us, I often say that our greatest gift to each other is the gift of attention, of seeing someone. It's a chapter in my book, like just seeing someone, saying, I can see you, I see who you are. And allowing ourselves to open our hearts to loving that other person. And we do not have to make the commitment to speaking this out loud. As a matter of fact, most of the times it might be very uncomfortable if we spoke this out loud. But we can just silently give our love, send our love energetically to those who are right in front of us. It was this idea of really seeing and being with the people in my life in those moments, in those conversations that seemed very casual, very chit-chatty. You know, they weren't deep conversations off in a corner somewhere. They were just, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? Oh, well, this is happening. It's paying attention. And that for me starts with what I would call first a willingness, just a willingness to be present to ourselves in a deep, holistic way, holy way. All of ourselves, bringing everything to that moment, really living in the moment completely. So it's a willingness to just be present right where we are, no matter what is happening. If it's a crowded room, if it's a quiet conversation, if we're at the grocery store, the post office, or walking the dog. It's being completely present. So that's the first step, and being willing to allow that whatever we think we have to do, whatever we forgot to do earlier, we think we have to do in the future, we just allow that to be and trust that as we need to do it, it will move forward into our thinking, into our thoughts, and into our activity. But for right now, we decide we're going to be perfectly present, wholly present for whatever is taking place in that moment. And in presence, as we are present to what is and what is happening and how we are being and showing up to whatever is, there is a sense of participation. I'm going to call it participation. We're not just watching. We're not separate entities, watching something out there go on. We're participating in it. So in a conversation with the other person, we're actually connecting to their essence, to their energy, heart to heart. We could call it energy to energy, mind to mind, whatever makes you feel good about that. But it's a deep connection that is all encompassing. In other words, we can feel and sense, not just hear what the conversation is, right? You get that. And when we do that, we become present to what isn't being said, to what isn't being asked. And I talked a little bit about that last week. So, first, it's that willingness to be completely present. And then it's the practice of open heart listening, participating in a connection with someone, and allowing ourselves to understand not just what is being said, not just what is being communicated, but also what isn't being actually said or communicated. There could be some emotion around it, and we pick up on that, and we have compassion and empathy for whoever we're speaking with. And as we are connected and fully and wholly present, we then are guided and directed beautifully, compassionately, with what to say in that conversation. It might be to offer our help, as I mentioned last week. It might be to take some time to do some research on what would be the best help. It might be compassionate words, encouraging words, therapeutic words. It might just be allowing that person to be seen and heard fully and completely. The greatest gift is the gift of our attention, our presence, our being with each other. So all of this led me to remember I have so many wonderful things happen to me, little tiny things during the day that happen to me. It feels so good. I see the lizards darting about in the backyard, or a hummingbird, or butterflies, or a neighbor's dog just makes me laugh so much, whatever is going on. And I forget that when we have so many of these moments, our days become filled with this love and this joy, being completely present to all the little things. So it goes back to that quote last week. We all want to save the world, but no one wants to help mom with the dishes. We all want some big magical event to happen so that we can participate in something grand or something wonderful or magical, when the little magical things are happening constantly. The world is available to inspire and delight us if we would just have eyes to see and ears to hear. And I was thinking about all this during the week after last week's podcast, and I remembered my trip to Arizona a few weeks ago. And the first thing that happened that was so wonderful, well, the first thing that happened that was so wonderful was that my car that I'm driving, which is my son's car, there's a long story there. It's a very old car with a lot of miles and it's beaten up quite a bit. It is an old Jeep. And I was like just praying that it made it to the airport. It did. It worked great. I was very, very delighted. I was grateful and delighted. Then my brother happened to be on the flight, and that was just so much fun. It was just such a unique situation. He's going to Vegas, I'm going to Phoenix, and we had time to talk on the plane, and it was just something wonderful. We hung out afterwards and just talked and caught up for a few moments, which we haven't done by ourselves one on one in quite a while. So that was just fun. And then my Uber driver, when I finally left my brother, my Uber driver picked us up and it was kind of rainy and very misty and foggy, and I couldn't see any of the mountains. I couldn't see really the desert terrain. It was very thick and very cold. And my Uber driver picked me up, a woman named Jerry, and she was bubbling. She was so happy. She was like, "Hello, let me help you with your luggage." And she just was kind and she looked right at me. And I started just being so bubbly. And we just talked about, I don't know, the weather and some things, but I was committed. I was all in just being with her. And she opened up to me and she asked me, what was I doing here? And I told her I was here in Phoenix for a conference on being, you know, and she had to know more about that. Who wouldn't? And I just talked to her a little bit about those questions, who are you being? How are you showing up? And I commented to her how it was so wonderful to get into an Uber with her that on a miserable day where people could complain, and people were complaining in the airport, as you can imagine, that she was just in a great mood. She said, "Of course, I'm in a wonderful mood. I'm alive and life is good and I'm working." I said, "Yes, you are being the presence and the love and the joy that you are, and you're allowing it to flow into every area of your life." And when I said that, she said, "You are an angel, and you are sent here to remind me that that's what I'm supposed to be doing with the kids." And she proceeded to tell me about this program that she had put together for kids who weren't getting the attention or the love that they needed in schools by their parents or their teachers. And she had a program that she was working on and she was allowed to participate in. And she was just loving these kids and they were responding to her. They were doing better in their grades and doing better in their expressing themselves and all of these things. And I wish I could remember what she told me her business was. And we stopped at my location at my hotel and she was flipping through a book showing me just things in her life that she's been creating lately. And it was just an amazing experience. And it kept going on. I couldn't check into my hotel that day. And the people at the hotel, the girl behind the little cafe counter, she was just talking about what a great cup of coffee she makes and that the food was really good and that it was just made and how great their little kitchen was. I wasn't even hungry. I certainly don't drink coffee, kind of, I already had my coffee, but I was so inspired to buy a cup of coffee and sit and chat with her with this homemade muffin. And I was just having a great time while I waited for my room to be done. And then the gentleman heard that I was waiting for a room and he goes, "You know what? I'm just going to call and see if they can get it ready early for you." And he did. And it was ready like 2 hours early. And the day went like that. I had a smile on my face all day long, actually, all week long. Things just kept happening that were unfolding like that. And I wasn't waiting for someone else to be, I'll say, happy, joyful, peaceful, whatever quality. I wasn't waiting for them to be that. I was that. I was my authentic self. Whatever I was feeling or being with, I was being my authentic self. And so, whatever showed up, I was going to be that presence. And I was going to be heart centered listening. And then what is phenomenal is that what kept showing up were all these little blessings. Now, let's face it, if somebody had shown up and they were very unhappy, they were miserable, they were not having a good day, bad things in their mind, bad things had been happening to them, I would have still been my presence. I would have still counted that moment as a blessing, being able to be present to them while they were having a hard time. So you see, it isn't about someone else bringing the joy or bringing peace or bringing um, a good attitude or whatever we want to call it. But I do believe that the more often that we are in that space of being present to what is, we allow a deeper connection. And when people feel connected, there is joy and peace and love, regardless of the bad day or the bad weather or the fender bender or the diagnosis or whatever is happening. That can still take place, but the connection allows it to take place, and there is still the flow of love, of peace, and joy. Ah, it reminded me too of a story I told at Christmas. I went to Home Depot and I had looked online and they had this outdoor Christmas tree that I wanted. It was just the perfect, most perfect outdoor Christmas tree that I just loved. And they said they had it in stock. I went, I looked, I couldn't see it, I couldn't find it. And somebody saw me noticing and looking. And this gentleman asked me, "What are you looking for?" And I said, "That up there, I can see the picture. I can't, but I don't see it where it might be stocked." And he looked at his little computer thingy and he says, "Oh, it looks like we have a couple, like two in stock. And I'll call back for that." They said it was up front. He couldn't find it up front. Another woman who worked there came up and she climbed on this big ladder all the way to the top. By this time, there's two or three other people who are looking for different Christmas displays and things like that. And we were all talking while this is going on about Christmas and which one are you getting and what kind of lights do you have, and then we're putting up our trees during Thanksgiving and different kinds of things that we're all talking about, and it was all bubbly and nice. And pretty soon she comes down and she says, "Oh, there's none in stock up there. I'll go back to the back and look." So again, now there's more people and this other gentleman is helping them, and we're all talking about these beautiful decorations. And she comes back and she said, "There doesn't seem to be any in the back." And I feel a little disappointed, but we're having fun. We're having a great moment. And as we're all, it sounds funny, but there's probably 7 or 8 of us now. We're all saying goodbye, moving. Some have their carts full, some, like me, don't have anything. And this other woman, a completely different employee, walks up with a box, the box that I'm looking for. And I say, "Oh, you found it." And she looked at me. She goes, "I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "The box, that's what these gentlemen, this woman, they were calling back." She goes, "Oh, I didn't receive any calls." And I just looked at her and thanked her. And before I left, I said, "What made you bring that box up here?" She said, "I have no idea. I saw this sitting in the back. It didn't seem to be in the right place, and I just walked up here with it." It's like, yes, yes, yes. Even if she hadn't walked up with that, it would have been such a beautiful exchange of energy that morning at the Home Depot. You know, do you have days like that where sometimes it feels like things are just stressing you out and putting you in a worse mood? And you realize that even though you don't get what you want, We could have been in a good mood about it. We could have heard someone else's beautiful story that might have cheered us up. We could have been present to just the Christmas music or the holiday music that was playing in the background. Whatever it is, we can always look for and therefore find something beautiful that is happening. We just have to agree with ourselves to make the commitment to be present, be willing, and to have that heart centered listening, to be open to possibilities. Maybe we came to Home Depot to just witness someone, to give them our attention, to hear what they have to say. So I want to bring it back to that idea of listening to what isn't being said and allowing ourselves to be guided and directed in that moment to, again, just to notice or to comment or to offer or to be silent. That might be the perfect thing that we can offer someone. Whatever it is, being present will guide and direct us into that perfect exchange, that heart centered exchange of energy. And we will know exactly what is ours to do in that moment. And I want to talk too about what's been happening for me. And this is one of the biggest things. And that is that little voice inside my head when I'm completely alone. Often something, a noise, a sound, um, whatever it might trigger a thought. And the thought could be as simple as to call someone, or someone's name might just pop into my mind. And what happens is often I will just dismiss that thought or that idea or that name. And what I have found lately is that, again, when I am allowing myself to be present to myself, to my being, and there's a thought that is just a name. Let's say it's not even a thought that is so complete as to say, call your mother. It's more like a name pops into my head or a thought of my mom pops into my head. And I can just go, oh, well, that's a nice thought, and just let it go. But if I am really present, it might be the idea, spirit guiding or directing me to call that person or connect with that person in some way. It might be a reminder that they are having an experience, a surgery today, or an experience today, or going on vacation today, and wishing them well, or letting them know I'm thinking about them. And I have been witnessing for myself that I am dismissing a lot of these thoughts, a lot of these ideas. And I've decided to just become more present to them. And as you might expect, as I am becoming more present to them, there's more synchronistic events that are unfolding through my noticing and witnessing these simple thoughts or ideas, even if it's as simple as taking the dog for a walk, even if it's as simple as writing something down, because I tend to forget things if I don't write them down. So, anyone out there know that feeling? So, I allow myself to be present and heart centered with myself, allowing the thoughts that do come to inspire me. So I hope this gives you some ideas this week of really being willing to be fully and completely present in each and every moment, and allowing whatever shows up to be that heart-centered space that is willing to receive and give and acknowledge and be with that energy that is connection. That is the greatest gift we can give someone, is that gift of our attention. And not only being present with others, but being fully and completely present to ourself. Considering that the highest form of spirituality is self-love. To being willing to be directed of how to love ourselves in each and every moment. To give ourselves that attention that will allow us to expand and be a greater expression of spirit, mind, and body. So I hope this week you laugh, love, and live enlightened every single day. If you like this video, please hit like. It helps so much. And share it with a friend. Maybe there's someone in your life that would be uplifted by these ideas. Thank you for listening. You can find more ideas like this on my website, elizabethcantey.com. And a lot of these ideas and more are in my book, Living Enlightened, The Joy of Integrating Spirit, Mind, and Body. And that's on Amazon. Have a wonderful week, and thank you for listening.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next Tuesday at 7 a.m. Mountain Time for Living Enlightened with Elizabeth Cantey. Integrating your spirit, mind, and body. Learn more at www.ntmedia.org.